Hello and welcome to the Coaching Crowd podcast with me, Zoe Hawkins, and my friend and co-host Jo Wheatley.
Hi everybody, great to be here with you again this week. This week, the focus is on providing you with an emotions coaching demo, and we've chosen to do a little demo because coaches and aspiring coaches can find it quite difficult to be able to know what does good coaching look like, what can you do in a coaching conversation. So today we're going to combine a couple of tools that we have in our toolkit, and no doubt we'll be going a little bit off piece with it, but we hope you enjoy listening. And if you're interested in learning more about emotions coaching and the tools that we can share with you, then you can take a look at our website, igcompany.co.uk, read all about our emotions coaching practitioner program.
Yeah, and this particular tool we're doing today isn't actually from the program, but it shows you a sample of some of the work. So I'm going to be the coachee. Jo is going to be my coach. This isn't rehearsed. This is live off the piste. So let's go.
So Zoe, have you got a goal that you would like to explore in terms of your emotions and how you're feeling about it?
Yeah, I think the one I'd like to explore, which feels pretty topical, is around our new program that's launching. Obviously, that starts in September. So lots of different emotions that are flying around related to that. So I think that would be a good one to explore.
Okay, so I hear you say there's lots of emotions flying around. Sounds like it could be helpful to identify what those are. So if you could just take a moment to draw a circle on the piece of paper in front of you.
Yeah.
And separate that out into 8 different sections. So that might look like a pizza for you, might look like a bicycle wheel.
Yep.
Okay, great. So you mentioned you've got the new program launching. What are the emotions that are flying around for you that you're experiencing about that?
There's excitement, which is great. So, that's good. There's anticipation. I think a long time in the making. So some anticipation. Yeah, a good dose of nerves, I think, would be fair. What else? Pride. This is a massive piece of work that you and I have been working on. So there is pride, gratitude for, the people who've already booked and put their investment in us. So gratitude for that. What else?
So for those of you that are listening, Zoe, as she's mentioning each of these emotions that she's experiencing, she's putting one in each of those 8 different segments. So Zoe, I think so far you've identified excitement, nerves, anticipation, pride, gratitude.
Yeah. I would say at times there can be a dose of overwhelm in there as well.
Okay.
When I sit back and I think about, the size of what we are doing, along with obviously life that happens beyond the veneer of coaching. So there can be a dose of that. It's actually really hard to identify all the emotions, is what I'm noticing.
I think you've got 6 there so far, so you've got space for a couple more. It doesn't matter if there aren't 8, but there is space if you feel drawn.
I would say, actually, thinking about like the whole process of creating it and bringing it, there's been a lot of connection. So, connection to people who are interested that we've been talking to, connection between you and I in terms of the design process. So I think that's probably a good one to recognize as well. Is there an 8th? First 4 were easy. they came really easily. What other emotions are present as I think about the program? I don't know if if confidence is an emotion, and I think it's sort of wrapped up in the sort of pride and gratitude, but this is something I feel ready for, like something I feel confident to bring out. That's the two sides of the coin, isn't it? The nerves, the anticipation. But yeah, I think I'd capture that as confidence.
Great. And if you're listening to the podcast and you're thinking, oh gosh, like how many emotions do I know? All of a sudden I feel like I've got quite a narrow range. Then it could be really useful for you to look up the feelings wheel or emotions wheel. You can Google it. There are lots of different variations.
There is one in our book, Jo.
There is one in our book. Yes, Deciding to Coach, which you can find on Amazon, and will arrive within 24 hours. But basically, when you look at that, all of a sudden you realize, wow, there are 50, 60 different emotions, and so often we almost kind of suffocate ourselves by just focusing on a few. So it's interesting, Zoe, as you are reflecting on the emotions that you've identified, those first four that you said came easily, does that reflect your kind of day-to-day experience outside of how you feel about the program, or is that purely related to this program?
I do think there's an element of actually rarely sitting and thinking about how I feel or feeling how I feel, right? Like actually, how often do we just check in with what is actually going on here? What am I experiencing? So I'm always aware of surface emotions, but yeah, it's very rare that I think I would sit down to fully appreciate all the range of emotions that I'm experiencing at any one time.
So all of those emotions are, neutral. They're neither good nor bad. They are the reality of what you're experiencing, and it's great that you are able to feel them. My invitation to you now is to just take a moment and give a score to those emotions. So how, a scale of 0 to 10, how proud do you feel about it? How excited are you, etc., etc.?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to give pride an 8. And that's sort of recognizing we are on a journey. So there's been a lot of work involved, but there's still a long way to go as well. And it's not that I'm delaying the pride, but recognizing that there is still more to experience. So I would say the excitement is probably also an 8. I think I'd give that one. Anticipation's a funny one because it's, for me, I experience that as like a bundle of parts of it positive and parts of it are unsettling. So it's a hard one to score. I'd say it's high though. Like I'm kind of drawn to sort of say it's a 9, and it's a mixture of stuff. Nerves, I would say, is a 5, I think. Confidence, I give that a 7. Connection, again, I think I'd give that a 9. Overwhelm, I think I'd give that a 4. And gratitude, I'm going to give that a 10. That feels good to give that a 10. Yeah.
It's good to take a moment to acknowledge that.
Yeah.
And usually when people do the wheel of life, it's all about, getting the scores as high as possible. And we talk about actually probably nobody experiences their life at 10 out of 10 in all of the important areas of their life at any one moment in time. As we're taking this approach to adapting that tool today, it isn't necessarily about getting the scores to 10. And when you're working with a coachee, it's inquiring more around what would you like each of those scores to be. So my question to you, Zoe, is, are there any gaps for you within this wheel?
I think what's interesting, I don't know whether it's a gap, but as I was going through this piece around anticipation, feels it's not confusing, muddled, I think. Like I noticed how actually all the others are quite straightforward for me. Like they feel like they can stand on their own and I'm clear about them and the scores feel good. I understand like why I'm scoring them the way they are, and and they all seem to sit comfortably. But as I was looking at anticipation, I sort of noticed, oh, there's more to that one. That feels like there is stuff to unpack in that one.
Okay. What happens before you feel anticipation? What's the feeling you get before it? So if we look at the sequencing.
Feeling I get before anticipation. I actually don't know.
We told you this was live.
Yeah, it's interesting. I actually don't know. Like, I wonder if anticipation is actually my coming into awareness that something is about to happen. Because all I'm kind of when you ask that question, it's just sort of blank, before anticipation is a bit blank.
So what's the feeling that you have when you're experiencing blankness?
Well, part of me wants to say calm, calm, neutral, peaceful. But it's also, but there's also other stuff in there, like curiosity, creativity. It's like when there's something brewing, I suppose. So it could be, before anticipation could be like nothing, like just like getting along day to day, all the other emotions, I suppose, I might experience in a day. But I think as I kind of look at it more closely, it's that creative phase, perhaps, where a bit of confusion, like when you're trying to work something out, like a project, some of it is creative and flows really easily. And as you know, you and I can sit in that creative tension of like, oh, like it's just not quite there yet. So there's a bit of frustration in there. And then you break through that. And I guess this is the process we've been on, isn't it? You break through that and you bring this thing to life, and then it's made and it's sort of sat there. And that's when I sort of move it then into anticipation of like, great, like now we're in a different phase.
Okay, great. So I think what you mentioned is that before anticipation, you feel a mixture of calm, neutral, peaceful, curious, creative. You go through that process, or you've been through those emotions in the build up to creating the package, the training. Now it's ready and you're sat feeling the anticipation of that coming to life. So what comes after? What's the feeling you experience after anticipation?
I think actually the after anticipation is a lot of what I have mentioned, which I know when I'm saying it sounds weird because you asked me what happens after, but I don't think it is an after. I think it can also be in conjunction with.
Okay.
So is there any one singular emotion that I might experience after anticipation? I don't think so, but I think it can increase some of the other things on the wheel. So like pride, for example, I'm thinking now like, yeah, after anticipation, I think I'll feel more pride because I'll have moved through that anticipation and be in a different phase of the journey. So I might experience more nerves, on the day, where it's about to go live, and suddenly it really, it dawns on me that, oh gosh, now people are going to tell us what they think, and is it going to be, the experience that I want the clients to have? So I might feel more nerves after anticipation, or I might feel less. So I think there's a range of emotions I feel after anticipation. I think that's probably why being in anticipation feels like that bundle I was talking about. There's lots inside it.
Yeah, it's interesting because the visual I have in my mind is almost like a Christmas cracker. So you describe all these emotions before it. So that would be like the end that's whatever. And then you've got that anticipation in the middle, which is actually a bit smaller. And then you've got all of these emotions again on the other side. But then like with the Christmas crackers, you're describing like actually if you pulled it open and revealed it, you'd see all these other things in there as well.
Yeah.
So what would the anticipation like to have happen?
Well, as you were describing that, what came to mind for me was it's a not knowing place, anticipation. And part of me is okay with that. Like, I'm okay with the not knowing. There's lots I can focus on in terms of what I do know. But actually, it's a huge amount that's outside of my control. And I think that is the building awareness that I have of why this anticipation feels muddled. So what does it want to have happen? It's funny, isn't it? Because part of it wants to just be released. And part of it is like, I quite like it here. Like being in anticipation is actually, it's a nice place to be because I'm not on the other side of it yet.
What are you surrendering to?
It's surrendering to the not knowing. It's surrendering to trust in myself and in you, that we together have done enough, and that we have, built this from good heart and faith and quality assured, that we together as a team have done enough. So I think I'm surrendering to that. And I think it's just a surrendering to what will be, isn't it? Well, and actually surrendering to what will be, and that I and we as a team have the resources available to figure out whatever comes next, be it good, bad, both, who knows.
And whereabouts in your body do you experience the anticipation?
I experience it in probably my sort of tummy area, I think I would say, sort of below my ribs. Yeah.
And if you were to give it a color, what color would it be?
Rainbow is what comes to mind, like lots of different colors.
And what does it become in the next step? So once that anticipation has been released, what does it become then? Where do you feel that?
I sense it dissipates, like it's like that pop, I think, that you described, like it's released and it will transform into, the next, whatever the emotions are that come next, a whole range of them, which I might feel in all sorts of different places, depending on what they are.
Got that the branding ideas that we discussed, Zoe, come into my mind and thinking, wow, how relevant that is to those ideas we've discussed. So we've explored a little bit around anticipation, which is where your attention was drawn initially, what you noticed as you were kind of completing your wheel of emotions related to this current goal that you have. As you take a look at that wheel again, which of those emotions would you like to have a different score from what they currently have?
Do I think having just explored that, and I'm looking again now, I'd rated confidence a 7, and I think I can move that. I think I can feel confident that I can rate that a 9. And the reason why I think is just in going through that process is acknowledging that I can put trust in in myself, and I can put trust in us, trust that we have done enough, that we are acting in good faith. And actually, part of the process of bringing anything new to the market is with an open mind, to hear the feedback, to learn from the experience, to continuously build and improve. And I do feel confident that that is wholeheartedly the process that we will go on next. So yeah.
So the goal is to feel 9 out of 10 confident about the release of the program, or you're sharing it with others, the feedback you're going to receive. You're currently feeling a 7 out of 10, and you described the process of putting the program together, the mindset behind it, the intention, the focus on quality, adding value, all of those things. So what are the options for you in terms of bridging that gap between the 7 and the 9?
I think it is, I think it's part and parcel just taking this moment to pause and to recognize where we're at with it. There's probably something about bringing in our broader team to already start to think about how we capture that ongoing learning process, feedback surveys, qualitative feedback about the experience people are having, so I think actually there's some tangible actions that we can do as a team to start now thinking about whilst we've been in the planning mode for getting the program out. I think actually we're in a good place to be able to switch to, great, so where are our check-ins going to be? What's the feedback that we're going to gather? How are we going to step into that continuous improvement space?
Would that make a difference to your confidence now between the 7 and the 9?
Yeah, I think it would, because I think it's about it's almost like an updating of that score. So I think I'm closer to that 9, and actually knowing that, so I can sit here and say, yeah, we will learn from the process, but actually having planned how we're going to learn from the process, I'll feel even more confident about that part of the process.
Okay, great. So is there an action that you are motivated to take from today, or a key learning that you'd like to share?
I think the action, so the action is to chat to our broader team about designing those feedback surveys. So that'll feel good. And the learning is actually about the anticipation and what it's like to be in anticipation, and recognizing the value of surrendering to that self-trust and the process that we've been going through.
Thank you very much. So as you're listening to that was a little bit of a blend between an adapted Wheel of Life, a little bit of clean language questions focused around emotions, and also then kind of closing that demo following what's called the GROW model, where you have goal, reality, opportunity, and way forward. So a little trio demo for you there.
Yeah,
so,
and
to share.
I would just say, for people who haven't actually heard much emotions coaching or clean language coaching, it might sound bizarre. I can remember coming across questions before and thinking, I don't know whether I would ask those. They just sound a bit weird. But actually experiencing those questions is hugely powerful. It just takes you to parts of your thinking and your experiencing that you rarely check in with. And I think is a faster and more rapid way to move through any obstacles, even obstacles you don't know exist. Like I wouldn't have been able to say there was anything in my way, but actually sitting in that anticipation, I noticed there was a part of me who was sort of sat still in the kind of like, it's nice and comfortable here. So it's to be playful in your coaching. I think that's what we encourage all of our coaching trainees to be. Have the courage to experiment, be playful, blend tools together. So just have a go.
And also take time to explore your own relationship with your emotions. And there may have been thoughts or feelings triggered by listening to Zoe's journey through her own emotions this morning. And I know for sure that I'm sat here thinking, often like we do check in with each other, how are you feeling? Or we know we will share how we're feeling because it's a space that we've created between ourselves where that is valid and welcome. But I'm also sat with we could take time to go deeper into these things and really learn about how we process the way we approach work and programs, and holding our experience of it, the anticipation of the experience that we want our learners to have, and this continual evolution that we're on and wanting to contribute to the profession, but also actually to that everyday mental health that people have, and that knowledge and ability to identify and express our emotions, and also the relationship between our emotions, I think is absolutely critical. And that's why we continue to spend time in these spaces and create the resources that we do.
One last thing I'd actually say, I think when people start to think about coaching with emotions, they instantly go to dark emotions, unsafe emotions, trauma, and actually so much emotions work in coaching isn't about any of that. As you can see from my example today, like they're all very accessible, everyday, healthy emotions that I experience, and still incredibly valuable to be able to explore them. So I would also, encourage coaches to not face away from doing emotions work, because there's just enormous value in being able to step into that.
Yeah, so we hope you found that valuable and you enjoyed listening in. If you did, then please like and subscribe. We'd love your review on the podcast. And if you're interested in working with us to develop your ability to coach with emotions, then come and check out our website, igcompany.co.uk/emotions coaching. See you next week.